Well, welcome back. I've been talking on a series about divorce. I think it's important to go back and have a listen. There's some great insights from somebody who's actually experienced it firsthand. I'm certainly not a professional counsellor or a professional psychologist, but I believe that in the Realman framework, there are some very good insights. One of the things that I recently thought about, and even today was reminded, what goes on in a divorce is a certain amount of mourning and grief. Grief is a multifaceted response to loss, particularly to the loss of someone or something that has died, to which a bond or affection was formed. Although conventionally focused on the emotional response to loss, it also has physical, cognitive, behavioural, social, cultural, spiritual, and philosophical dimensions. Wow, that's a lot to take in. Grief is a natural response to loss. As I was trying to allude to, that grief in and of itself is a response to the loss. The very fact that people are different, people cope differently through different times, people react differently, I believe there is a general thread with guys in dealing with divorce. In my case, there was a sense that I had wronged, not only had wronged my children, I had set them up in future relationship, going through a divorce or separating or whatever. It wouldn't be as hard because mum and dad have done it and it's kind of normalised. And that really grieved me, that my own personal adherence to this commitment to being married and working on it and not divorcing caused a great deal of grief. So I can recall about 8 months of feeling it, of grieving. It's not a process where you kind of realise, hey, I'm grieving. It's that holistic view of everything. Everything leads back towards this sense of loss. You know, you're not exactly going to be feeling physically great. Why? Because your emotions are so torn and worn out. You know, as they would say, you're a wreck. You have sleepless nights. You're constantly up on that sense or that feeling of stress, which produces hormones that damage your body. So physically, you're pretty affected, you know, and everything that follows after that. Let me tell you right now that what's important, there are a couple of things that are really important. And that is, and as I've said before, that the notion that you are and will get through, you're going to get through this. You're going to make it. Right now, or at the time, you're thinking, because it's so real and so painful, you're thinking, I'm not going to get through this. But I want to tell you that life does get better if you make the right decisions. And those right decisions aren't hard to make. So I was talking with some people today and they were encouraging me, not necessarily in regards to divorce, but through this time we've had difficulties with our daughter. She's not feeling that she can spend a lot of time with dad, like overnight visits, that sort of thing, and it's deeply painful. I guess it's just that father-daughter bond that was very strong. That's been broken, and that also emphasised the sense of loss. Why? Because I couldn't see her enough. I couldn't be there. And my friend asked me one day, he was considering divorce. At the time, it seemed so easy. He hadn't exactly understood in pragmatic terms what a divorce really is. And I said to him, I said, you know, do you actually know what a divorce is? A lot of guys possibly who are considering initiating one or are facing one, once you're out off the scene, you're not going to have 24-hour access to your children. Every morning you wake up, you walk out of your bedroom, and there's your child or children. You know, you get to touch them, you get to talk to them, you smell them, you breathe them in, you hear every sound, and that's going to change. So I said to him, are you prepared to have that be taken from you? Because I said it's not nice. So that's one great deterrent. One of the things that prepares you to get through this time in a better way, I guess, is persevering. Now, perseverance is a manly trait. The real man will discover deep within himself the need to survive Now, whether you're going to survive well or whether you're going to survive on the edge of your seat, hung up every day, there needs to be a persevering attitude. You're going to get through this. And yes, you're going to have to feel some hard stuff, some really, really hard stuff. Let me assure you, life does get better. Persevering. Persevering for who? Persevering for your children. Persevere for yourself. If your partner has said, hey, we're done, I'm through, you hang in there because you're of value. Take on board what I'm saying, persevering for yourself, not for the self, me aspect. You can retain your integrity. How do you stay persevering through your divorce? Make a decision. I'm going to get through this. You could even define that as how well you're going to get through this. So this leads me to one point I'd like to make. If anything you've heard, please hear this. Set up a script, okay? He who knows what the script is going to be able to rehearse that script. So you're going to be able to tell yourself what's going on. This is an important aspect of perseverance. Your words set up your thinking. That little voice inside your head, part of your thoughts, it's telling you you're no good, she's dumped you, you're a bad person. That's all condemnation. Okay, so you need to combat that with better thoughts. How do you set up better thoughts? You use words. Okay? I know it sounds strange, but you've heard this, make it till you fake it. Speak it out until it becomes a reality. Now, I'm not saying latch on to some new age idealism, and I want to encourage anybody, Christian or non-Christian, the Word of God, I believe, is a very, very powerful book based on truth. Those words were written, inspired by God's Holy Spirit. They are life, they are truth. That's all we need to say about that. But there's certain words that will set up your thinking and ultimately your belief system, which will mean that your behaviour and your actions will follow suit. I'm going through a storm. I've filled up my sails, but I'm still afloat. These little catchphrases are going to catch you while you're in that mode of thinking. I did allude to the fact that, when you're grieving or when you're going through the initial part of your divorce, everything seems to come against you. You don't take such good care of yourself. And that probably is something that you need to be aware of. You're going to almost, as if rebelling against nurture, you'll be saying to yourself, I need to feel this pain because I deserve it. And therefore you'll start to abuse yourself. And that's an important point. Do you want to do that? Well, you've got to do something, right? Some people use razor blades to feel the pain, and other people put the blame on themselves. Other people try to avoid getting lost, I guess, in drugs and alcohol and sex. And whatever else they need to do, their vices seem to carry them through. But you'll always have to arrive back at that place of addressing the real need. And the real need is to be able to exist, to be able to be in your true form as a real man, standing and having done all just standing. Having stood the test, the trial, you're still standing and not leaning on a crutch. Incidentally, Christianity is not a crutch. Let's just make that clear. It's a decision to follow. Everything's based on a decision. And in deciding to follow, you have a relationship with God. There is leaning into, there is a reliance on, but you've still got to live that out. So there's no crutches involved. What will the script be? Perhaps you need to write that down. What will the script be? I'm not talking about planning a strategy of how you're going to get through this, because that's actually a very good thing. If you're a detailed person, you're going to want to have some surety in the detail, how every single thing is going to be handled. And you probably won't end up things going how you'd like it or the way you'd want it, all right? Because life's kind of fluid, and there's going to be points in time where your aspirations or your planning isn't going to work out. But what I will say is, if you're at a party, when someone says, hey, what do you do? I admittedly did talk a lot about the loss, what was going on. I'm possibly one of those guys that wears his heart on his sleeve, and I absolutely hate myself for it in a comical way. But I'm learning to be, and that's the great thing, don't live under condemnation. So what, you wear your heart on a sleeve. I'll be the first guy that people come running to because they know I can identify with them, and I'll stand with them and I'll stand strong with them, but I'll also tell them, hey, you've got to buck your ideas up. I'm a real man just like you are. We all have feelings. I'm not making excuses for my feelings, but I'm learning to be more discerning. Okay, somebody who's just met you doesn't know your entire history. They just see who you are right in that 30 seconds. They don't know your history. They may see that you're not so happy. So you've got this script, a script for when you meet people. If you're not wearing a ring, you're going to get a question of, oh, maybe he's single, maybe he's separated, maybe he's available. You could script it so that you're just going to have a response like, I have 3 kids, I have 2 kids, they live with their mum. That tells somebody immediately where things are at. Whether or not you're separated, whether or not you're divorced, be aware of your boundaries. You know, certain things that you don't get into straight away. And I talked earlier also about not burdening your friends. Okay, those friends are your buddies. They're always going to be there. They'll do that for you. But if you're constantly using them as a soundboard, oh, she did this, she did that, and then start getting into the depths of it, that's what I coined bringing your friends down. Don't bring them down. They are on your side, but they don't want to have your issues on them 24/7. Why? Because they have issues of their own. And perhaps some of them are also looking down the barrel of a relationship that's ending. Probably find that some of your friends who you thought were very, very close will no longer have a lot to do with you. They'll just go for a deep dive to a depth that you can't get to. Why? Because sometimes there is this synergy effect. If they think that if there is any instance of what's going on in your life rubs off onto them, they're going to run a mile. Yes, you have to be perceptive. And this boils back to who's important. Right now, you're the most important person. And I say this not because I want you to be number one and you've got to think about number one. Because if you've got kids, you've got to think about them. They are a critical priority. But if you're unhealthy and you're not functioning how you used to, or if you're dysfunctional, you've got to get healthy. You've got to be healthy, happy, fulfilled, satisfied, purpose. You've got all those things ahead that you've got to get to because you're growing up the next generation and you don't want your kids going through this kind of trouble. You don't want that. So you want you to be healthy. Imagine or visualize the complete you, the real man. You're confident, you're approachable, you're filled with empathy. You are productive, you have purpose, and you know you're a strong tower for others going through the same thing. Your actions are going to affect generations. You know, our behaviors, our actions all have consequences. So ultimately, you're not alone in the universe. Your actions are going to affect other humans. So you want to be looking after who you are right now. You're going to take care of yourself. One of the things I did earlier on was I basically explained to my wife, I don't want to talk to you on the phone because it would inevitably lead to arguments. And I'd raise my voice and I'd get into this catch me, pull you thing where I would be caught again in an argument, raising my voice, and it would just pull me down. I said to her, look, and this was through a lawyer, I just want to talk to you about these matters, and then emails and texts. And I tell you, that was hard, because there was personal interaction and there would be this quiet thing that would come out, you said this, or why did you say that? And it would just bait me a little bit. So you have to have a script in mind. And I would keep maintaining. I can't talk to you about it. Please talk to my lawyer. Now, I got pushed further, and I must admit it was an art to be able to say, can't discuss it, got to go. Or if I talk to you, I'll end up arguing with you. I cannot talk to you right now. I'm not ready to. And that's a privilege that you have. Your boundary is, please show some respect. This is what I'm prepared to do. You'll be surprised. Set that boundary up early. That's part of the scripting. Before you start to progress through the nastiness and the bitterness, and I've said this before, the person that you're now dealing with, if your wife has said, it's done, it's over, it's ended, and you've qualified this. I qualified this for a whole year. I spent a year trying to get back to my wife. I pleaded with her. I did everything, she was done. No, no, no. Then recognise that this person that you're dealing with is not the same person as prior. This is a person on a mission, and her mission is to get out of this, relationship. And so her priorities are different for whatever reason. They could be good or bad, however which way it rolls. So you need to address this almost in a business-like fashion. No, I can't talk to you. Now, when it comes to the kids, though, there's going to be some different things happening, some different dynamics. And that's going to come out in the wash too, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in another episode. I don't want to bog you down with too much. So today we've covered off persevering. We've also covered off about who's important and some action points around there. Having a story. I will get into setting up your mindset, but you've got to have a pre-prepared script. A script for when you meet people, a script for when you're dealing with your ex-partner or the person that you're separated from, a script dealing with even with the kids about what's going on. Make sure you're using your adult part and right deep down inside of you, the hopes, the dreams, the aspirations. The real man deep down crying out, hey, we're going to get through. He's the guy you want to feed. Okay? So to every man out there who is struggling, you're going to get through this. And I encourage you to look again at the Realman project. I'm going to be producing a book, which is probably going to enlist some of this stuff. But please subscribe to the newsletter. Subscribe. This project's going to go places, and I want you to be on board. So bless you, and be safe, be responsible. Thank you. Goodbye.